All right, welcome back to another episode of the Kentucky Couple Travel Podcast. So, we have a fun episode
Usually
this time.
you say I'm Clifton and I say I'm Whitney.
Oh, well, I'm Clifton.
I'm Whitney.
Still. So,
Fill my Cheerios tonight.
yeah, well, it is like 12:30, so
I'm really tired.
pay no attention again to this clock.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, but we don't drink.
No, we don't drink.
It's because my batteries are tore up.
Yeah, I've never changed the batteries in this clock. Okay, so it seems weird telling you that because I just said that and we just recorded the last episode too.
That's okay. We need them to know. We're not slackers. It's just messed up.
Yeah,
but I love this clock and I'm not taking it down. It may be messed up because I did drop it, but.
Yeah, it's actually almost 1 a.m. Anyways, the episode today is, we usually do a top 5 list of, things we liked about a specific trip or our favorite hotels or something like that. Well, today, if we're honest, we've all had trips that didn't go according to plan. So we're going to tell 5 stories of things that
You mean pretty much traveling with my family?
that
happens.
were unique, not according to plan, or just downright bad.
I've thought of some more since we've been talking
Yeah,
about
so we
it.
may throw in a few extras. So we're at least doing 5. We usually do one thing we don't like. On this one at the end, I want to give a little piece of advice at the end. Let's go ahead and jump
I
in.
have a piece of advice too.
Okay, well, we'll save it for the end.
We'll save it for the end.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started. The number 5, I'm used to saying mine and then yours. But the number 5 was when we went to Alaska. I mean, my mom, I love her. In ways,
We probably may have told this story before.
I don't know.
I can't remember.
In ways, my mom is a super planner. She plans out stuff.
Yeah,
if you
she
tell her,
is.
if you tell her you have something to do, like, she will remember it. Like, you don't have to write it on a calendar. She'll be, hey, did you do that? Is that done yet? Like of her vehicles, like there's a recall.
Or did
She'll
you
be like,
call
hey,
somebody?
Have you scheduled that recall yet? Like, she remembers everything for everybody. And, God love her. It's just, I guess, her curse and her blessing. But she's also, at the same time, somehow a procrastinator. She puts things off. Like, if you're like, she'll want to go on a
For
trip.
herself.
Yeah, and you'll be like, hey, we're going to go on this trip. You want to go? Well, we'll see. And like,
We'll see what's what. That's
like,
what she says.
We planned a Dollywood trip as a family a couple weeks ago for Whitney's birthday. We made sure to go on the day she was off work because she said how much she wanted to go. And until that morning, she would not tell us for sure if she was for sure going. She's always like, well, we'll see.
I think
I'll let you
she's
know.
had so many bad experiences with vacation.
Growing up, she's always took care of my grandparents. And, if we go on a trip, somebody's got sick or somebody's died
So
or
she's
somebody's
afraid to say
wrecked,
we're going.
So I think she's afraid of that. So...
Excuse me while I get a little loud sometime. I'm a yeller, but anyway.
So a couple years ago when we went to Alaska, it's been more than that now. It was,
We did not know this about her that she didn't have.
Yeah. So I'm like, Mom, you gonna pack? She's like, I gotta have something to pack in. Now listen, we've been on trips as family.
We have a lot.
We went on beta club trips as kids, and we have more than enough
Clifton
suitcases.
and I have, that's a
we
problem.
struggle with where to put suitcases.
Yeah, we love them.
And we'll circle back to that in a minute too. But the night before, I go up and I'm gonna load her car so we can get an early start to go to the airport the next morning. And I'm gonna go get Mom's stuff. And I said, Mom, you packed? She's like, yep. And I go in there and she has like this old leather suitcase that it doesn't have wheels. It's the one you have to pack. And we're packing for a week in Alaska, so this is heavy. And my mom had never flown before, and I said, Mom, you do not want to pack this through an airport.
Oh, I can imagine what that would have
She's
been like. I can do it.
She's like, I don't know. Why not? And I was like, you need something with wheels. Like,
it is
this
rough.
airport, it's.
I can't even. My backpack is a struggle.
When you're going into an international airport, you're traveling some distance here. And she's like, I don't know. Well, I'm like, listen, we've got some extra suitcases that I had offered her for a week.
Yes.
And
yes.
So I take her 2. Well, the next morning comes, and she's got both of them filled up with stuff, but neither of what she wants. She wants like one, so she only has one to keep up with. And so we stop on the way to the airport at like a Burke's. She goes in and picks one out that she wanted. And in the parking lot, we're moving and consolidating clothes. And I'm like laying on the suitcase in the back of the truck. getting this thing zipped. And we literally packed on the way to our trip to Alaska. So, yeah, that's one thing when, I guess, planning doesn't go according to what you thought and things.
She was not ready for that trip.
No.
Well, you might as well just go ahead and finish the rest of what happened.
Well, yeah, that
was a rough one. I forgot how bad that was.
Yeah. So here's another thing that when traveling doesn't go according to plan. So the 3 of us went, but that trip was originally supposed to have 4 people. This is during the height of COVID, so cruising had just started back up. We'd had a cruise booked for.
It was 2021, right?
Yeah, 2021.
Yeah. In June or May, June.
And so everybody within 48 hours. Or the day of, you had to have a COVID test, a negative COVID test. So we went early to Walgreens, nobody sick, and get our swab. Well, we're 15 minutes down the road. Phone rings, it's Walgreens. I was like, okay, it's gonna be our results. They're all negative. And the lady's like, Whitney answers. She's like, are y'all the ones that tested for COVID? I'm like, yeah. She's like, who is it? And Whitney's like, I'm Whitney Caldwell. She's like, you're negative. She told me I'm negative. Mom's negative. But Rachel, our good friend,
my BFF
from church,
that loves to travel.
And we love, and I think she's done a lot of traveling with us that maybe she wouldn't have done. And she was so excited. She had never flown, I don't believe.
No, it was all new.
Yeah, all new. She was so
excited.
First cruise, going to Alaska. I mean, who goes on to Alaska for their first cruise? And
she was so excited.
And she's positive. And
it was the worst feeling I think I've ever felt in my life.
So I said, here's what we're going to do, Rachel.
I almost thought about coming home. I didn't even know if I wanted to go by this point.
I said, here's what we're going to do. I said, there ain't no way that's right. I said, we're going to stop at this next Walgreens at this next city, and we're going to test you again.
Yeah.
So we done it, and she was positive. So we drove her back to her car.
Her family came and got her.
Yeah, family came and got her.
She was pretty sick.
Yeah, it was a sad thing. Ended up, she got pretty sick. Her family got sick. Well, and then
when we were
on the boat a couple days later,
we were negative. I mean, we paid a lot of money for this trip.
Yeah, we were negative. And so a couple days later, Mom gets sick. We're on the boat, and she kept saying, "I'm freezing to death." And she's like, well, I am in Alaska. And she had, no energy. And Mom's always on the go.
She didn't talk to anybody. She loves to meet people.
She's a big talker.
Loves to meet new people.
And she, was just, kind of going about her business. She'd come
out
and go to dinner and go back to her room and lay and nap. And I was like, well, that's good for you. I was like, And she got the deal of a lifetime. She got it last minute. She decided to go. Again, procrastinating. And she got a balcony room in Alaska for
nothing
for $100.
Yeah, it was nothing hardly.
And so we were staying in her room because we got an interior room for $1,000 a piece, which was still cheap at the time for Alaska. And she got a steal, and we were just staying in her room and looking at this, and she's like, I don't know what's wrong.
She said,
she kept saying,
I don't know.
She said, I don't know what's wrong with me, and I'd give witness. I was like, is she really not know she's got COVID?
Yeah.
And so. Me and Whitney felt fine the whole trip. We get back to the hotel that night.
But we would try to get her to go see somebody or anything. She's like, I'm fine. I'm just really tired. I think it's just tired.
She said, I'll just go. Well, it turns out then, the night we get off the boat, I start running 103 fever.
Yeah, and then we have to come back home.
Yeah,
we have these flights, and we have to be back home. And everything's. We didn't have the extra to stay and.
So. But mine broke that night, and it never went back up. I didn't really have any symptoms.
And when I got home, I tested positive at home.
Yeah. And so, you got a little sick after we got home, but it really wasn't nothing like we had first COVID. It was really just like a mild flu. But now Mom, that was the first time she'd had it, and
she was pretty sick.
But, nothing like, she didn't have trouble breathing. She was just really exhausted is what she felt like, and froze. She probably had a fever.
But she said it was because it was Alaska, though.
Yeah, she said, I am in Alaska. It probably should be cold. It was 70 and sunny every day we was there. So it was.
We've got COVID twice coming home from the last few cruises we've went on.
Yeah, we've got COVID on
We've got COVID.
Yeah.
Caught it from the cruise.
And I was like, Mom, you were in the back seat with Rachel for an hour. You have COVID.
Yeah, and we were like, what should we do about going?
I didn't even think about that. I was like.
We didn't really, we really didn't know what we should do.
It was really just it wasn't her whole trip. It was probably the last 3 days when she felt like that.
Yeah, she wasn't sick at first, and we were negative, so we were able to go. And
we couldn't cancel.
No, there's no way. And then because Rachel did cancel and she got an awful deal. She actually bought the trip insurance and she ended up losing. Like they gave her a little bit back and then they said use it by a year. We went to reschedule her and they were like, "Oh, your year's up." Like the travel insurance she bought through them was the worst.
Yeah.
It was the worst.
I've always heard that you should get your own. Like
she didn't get anything hardly back. And she got some credit back for her flight. But, I mean, we're not flying Alaska Airlines very often.
Yeah, I mean, when are you going to really be flying Alaska?
Unless you go.
Yeah, Seattle's like the only place you
and I think some California, but we all have work schedules. And
yeah. So that was it. The next one, we talked about my mom. Let's talk about your mom.
My mom forgets everything. On accident. Like, my mom will start packing early. She's not, won't put it off. But she will lose half of it before we get there.
We'll disorganize.
Me and her both the same. We'll be talking on our phone, can't find it. We lose money. We lose things. We are bad together.
So,
terrible
when we first started dating, we went to the beach a couple times growing up, but Whitney's family, they always went to the beach every year. Her mom, brothers and sisters, and, some cousins. And so I started going with them after we'd been dating a while. And so back then, we were still in college, we were poor, we're splitting.
Oh, we didn't have much.
We're splitting like a condo, as many ways as we can to get it paid for.
Our whole family did that.
And, we were just, scraping by all we had,
My mom, bless her heart, she raised 4 kids, and we were always scraping by. My mom works hard, has always worked hard. We're middle class, people, but we, 4 kids, it's hard.
So we go and we drive to the ocean, 10 hours. When we get there and it's late, and everybody's tired.
My mom, when she gets tired, that's it too. She's grumpy.
And back then, it felt like, you would just take cash and budget it out.
Clinton and I were just happy because we drove by ourselves that trip. So we'd follow them down.
Yeah, we were in love and, and just follow them, on the way down there. And so we get there and
we park.
Jenny's like, "You want to go in with me and check in?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go in with you."
She always gets close to the guy.
And
she trusts him more than me.
she's like, "All right, let me get this money." Because, you put a deposit down, the rest you give them when you get there.
Yeah, we had cash.
Cash.
People don't do that as much now,
No.
but that's been several years ago.
Yeah, that's 16, 17
We've
years ago.
We've been married 13, and it was before we were married. So
that was early dating because that may have been Myrtle Beach still.
It was Myrtle Beach. I think
so
it was North Myrtle Beach.
This was one of the first or second times we went.
Yeah.
This is probably 17 years ago.
Yeah.
And so
you're telling our age.
Well, we're getting old. Beats the alternative. So we go, and Jenny's like, "My money is gone."
I mean, we're in. I mean, my aunt's in there. I think Shannon went with us. Everybody was stressed from driving. We all were half broke already.
I think Caitlin's horse might have died.
Caitlin's horse, my cousin hurt. She's a horse fanatic. Her horse had died on the way down. It was very traumatic. We get there.
Everybody squat. It's like a Jerry Clown.
And she had all of our money. She had even the money that you and I had given her because she was working.
We'd give our deposit, our share of it.
We give everything to her.
Yeah, and so
everybody had.
Probably $1,500 maybe. I'm thinking.
And, for
it was probably the rest of the room and her spending money.
Yeah, and there's for like 15 people, like 2 carloads full of people. That was
probably 3 carloads.
Yeah, that was with her.
So, and I mean, she's panicked.
Panic. We're in a panic
because we have no way to pay for the. We don't have no way to pay for the room. She
no gas.
She better have money for gas home. And I'm like, what are we going to do?
We're about in tears. She's in tears.
Yeah.
We're upset.
And so
my cousin's crying over her horse still.
Yeah. So we're probably running around this parking garage, unzipping suitcases. We're looking under
stuff
seats.
Out of the car.
Well, after about 30 minutes, finally I hear her say, "Well, I found my money." And
she had borrowed a purse from me.
And there was a small hole in the bottom of it.
In the lining of it.
In the lining of the
pocket. It was a knockoff Coach purse that I had probably got in New York City at one point on senior trip.
Or I probably got it for
you. Or you had brought it back, and it had a hole in the bottom, and I had forgotten about the hole.
And that envelope had went inside the lining. And so, So luckily she had it.
It was probably a good hour of searching and panic.
Yeah. Well, that would be a story in itself. Fast forward 1 week later, on the way home.
We had old cars, too.
Yep.
We had my old car, Mom had her old vehicle.
And I made the mistake that day. Luckily, I made the mistake. Turned out not to be a mistake of following Jenny. Usually I lead.
Yeah.
But I hadn't been a lot. It's the first time I drove somewhere
We
like
went
that.
every year.
Yeah, and I followed her.
We still get lost.
Well, somehow we went 100 miles in the wrong direction.
We ended up in
when we got on the
Lumberton.
interstate.
I'll never forget it. Lumberton, North Carolina.
Yeah, we went 100 miles in one direction when we should have been going 100 miles the other direction on this interstate. Well, just so happened when we got to Lumberton, we're on the interstate, and like Jeannie's car is like, I was like, she's going like 30 mile an hour on the interstate, and she calls, she's like, my car's breaking down, and so just so happens we get off the exit
and we break
into
down.
a gas station, and her car's broke down.
It was, we got to the gas station. It starts back, and we kind of sputter off, and it breaks, because they said there's a, right here, they're like, right
Next
over here
door.
is the next door is a,
Yep.
is a car garage. And we pull over, then it just, it's dead.
It's dead.
And that man has his boat loaded up on his truck, pulling out to go fishing.
Yep. And we're like, sir, and he's like, yeah, we're closed. And we're like, we're from Kentucky.
We've
You
got
know,
100 miles out of
Yeah,
way.
you know, we got a long day ahead of us. And God bless him, out of the kindness of his heart.
They fixed it.
He worked on our car.
Few hours. It was,
Yeah.
we would sit out there in their little area.
Yeah, and this is before smartphones.
Oh yeah.
So we're just boredom, just sitting there for
we
hours.
sit there for hours. And I had my brother was little. My brother's 21 now. He's in the Marines. But he was probably, if that's been 17, about 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, maybe 6.
And then my sisters were, I was like, my sisters were middle school age. And there was 4 kids. And then Clifton, which I'm one of Mom's kids, I still count that. So it's 4 of us. Clifton, my parents, and my cousin, which was little in middle school.
Was Dolly and Tiffany with us?
They may have been.
So
My
it was-
it was a carload, and we were just,
Yeah.
we were exhausted.
But luckily, we went out of the way and broke down at a garage.
I know. I said that is God's blessing on us
Yes.
to let that happen and that man literally he had loaded his boat up. He was getting in his truck.
Yep.
When we pulled in, he was like, I'm sorry. And we were like, please. And he did. And I'm thankful for that, man. I wish
We
I
need
could
to go
find him.
We need to
I'd
look
like to
that
go
up.
back and say, man, I'm going to tell you too, I want to appreciate you, but now we've got better working vehicles that has warranty.
So
I think my mom wasn't she driving her little, it was the little
S10 Blazer.
S10 Blazer. Yep.
The
And
next
the
year, the door
fell off.
Not the little door. It was like the panel on the inside of the door.
Well, it did fall off on me once. I drove it down the road and the door fell off, but the whole panel fell off.
So wild times back then.
But we still went on vacation, even when it was hard. And that's something that I think everybody should do is, even when it's hard, even when, it's tight, go.
She's getting in on my advice.
Well, okay, wait.
Okay.
That was what I was want to talk about, too.
So, we got the same advice. Great minds think alike. Okay. So our next 3 come from recent trips. The next one, our trip to Vegas. We've flown quite a bit now.
Yeah.
Always have relatively smooth flights. Turbulence occasionally.
Oh, yeah.
But we went from Cincinnati to Chicago and Chicago to Vegas. The flight from Cincinnati to Chicago.
Storm and a half.
If you've ever made that flight, it's 40 minutes.
Yeah.
From takeoff to landing. You don't, like, normally when you're in the air, you're 30, 40,000 feet in the air. You're above 99% of any clouds. Usually when you're come through the clouds, you're about on the ground when you're flying. But here, you never got above 12,000 feet, so we were never above these thunderstorms. And it was lightning struck the plane.
It was so
It was shaking
awful.
violently.
Oh, it was awful.
Insane.
It was awful.
And, like, I can see, like, Whitney getting sick, our friends are getting sick, and we're just like, oh, my goodness.
And see, I have pretty tough anxiety and panic attacks sometimes, and I was feeling...
Yeah, like, she squeezed my hand, and I'm like, I was hurting too bad for my hand being squeezed to really be worried about
I was
that.
feeling desperate, and then the more I seen other people upset, the worse I was feeling.
But now, I've always heard advice, and I've always took this, and they weren't worried on this. If you're ever in a situation like that flying and something seems off, look at the flight attendants.
Yeah. Even though they had made them sit down.
Yeah, and they said
They do that all
They
the
told us
time.
before we took off. They said this is going to be a bumpy flight.
I was like,
We didn't
Clifton
know
was
what that
glad, and I was. They said that. I was like, when he told me that, I lost it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I would rather know.
I was like, "Let me off."
Whitney would rather just hit the side of a mountain and them never tell us anything.
Yeah,
wrong.
that's pretty much yeah.
So they're like, so we're not going to be doing.
I just feel like I couldn't breathe.
Drink service, and it's just like a 30-minute flight.
Sometimes they don't anyway.
Yeah, on a quick flight. But
they
never looked worried. They were reading their books, and I was like, this is hectic, but so yeah.
Clifton was pretty calm. I was really upset.
Yeah, somebody has to be calm.
Yeah, because I do get really upset really easy.
All right. So now, number 2 out of our fourth story here. This past trip. So we went to Mackinac Island. And if you listen to our last podcast, horse and buggy. That's the only way to get around, or a bicycle. Well, if you do the tour of the island, it's horse and buggy. So, huge Clydesdales. And so, on the first part of this carriage tour, I think it seated like 22 people. 2 Clydesdales pulling this up a mountain. We'd had pretty weather. It was cool because it was probably in the 60s. The wind was blowing. And, so it was cold. But it was nice weather. And so we take this carriage ride up the mountain. And we get there. And you're at a halfway point. And I guess, a few restaurants, a little gift shop, restrooms and things at the halfway point on top of this mountain before you go around to see the rest of the sights. And you also there transfer from a smaller carriage to a bigger one because they need those smaller carriages so the horse don't have to pull as much weight up the mountain. And so while we're there, it comes a downpour. And now,
it was like about a 15 minutes straight.
Yeah, it's just like one of those summer showers. It comes up, rains like 5-gallon buckets. You're pouring out water just hard as it can rain for 10 minutes. But we're inside. We go to get in the line. The sun's come out, and about the time it stops raining, our next carriage pulls up. Now these carriages are 35 people it held. Five or six people across. So many rows, 3 big Clydesdales at the front pulling this.
Before you get started, I will say this.
And it's a canvas top.
Yeah, canvas top. Mm-hmm. But, I know you'll tell more about it, but I didn't think about this, but the guy that was driving, we just went crazy about him. He was real rude. Clifton's going to say it. But he made me mad when we first got there because I don't know why he was trying, there was some women in a seat, 3 women, and they were saving the seat for their sister.
Yeah.
And so we were going to get behind him, and he'd already smarted off about that. He made us come up there and squeeze into that seat. Yeah. Like he was just so bossy and rude at 20 years old.
He was 20-year-old. As big around as my finger. And you could tell he was kind of full of himself. He thought he was good looking.
He was like on weed to me.
Yeah.
On in and out. In and out. Inside out
too. Yeah, the boredom character.
He's just his hair was kind of long and flowy, and he'd sit with his leg crossed, and he was like, I'm the best, I'm the best.
He kind of had a fake English accent.
He was faking it, totally. He was from Michigan, he said.
Kind of proper acting.
Jerk. And absolute jerk.
And so he's sitting there. So the way these carriages are made, if it does rain, they have these kind of flaps that come down that kind of seal you in, where the canvas extends. But sun was out, so everything's good. Well,
dude can't drive.
We go make the first turn and we drop in a pothole.
Yeah, he's not very good at it.
It wasn't anything on the drive. It is a pothole. Okay.
It's always the man.
So when we hit that pothole, the carriage kind of shifts.
It tilts.
And all the water from the roof of this canvas comes off on me. I'm on the outside. If I had stood in the shower for 10 minutes, I wouldn't have got any more wet.
Just a bad thing.
Didn't hit anybody else but me. It was like somebody took...
So if anybody's ever been to, water parks, they'll have one of those buckets that fill and then dump on the kids in the play area. That's what it looked like. It was an excessive amount of water.
I'm going to guess 20 gallons of water, maybe.
It was unbelievable.
It was literally like a stream, like if you took a 5-gallon bucket and just poured it out, but continuously, 4 of them. And so...
Don't get too far away.
Sorry. And so I was just drowned. And
he was drowned.
I was
soaked.
Freezing.
And it was 50 degrees and windy.
So this little snooty kid driving... He kind of half turns around
because
everybody kind of gasped, because I'm
So
drowned.
everybody was just shocked,
and he goes, "Oops, I forgot it rained." I guess he's supposed to like push the top of the canvas and empty it. And I mean, I'm a patient person.
I was so upset.
Anybody knows
because it still was a long ride.
It takes a lot to. Yeah, we had an hour left.
Yeah.
The wind was howling at this point.
We were in the middle of the woods on this ride because they were taking us on this.
And when he goes, "Oops, I forgot it rained," I wanted to throw him in Lake Michigan.
It was bad.
Okay.
It was really bad.
And so then
these people, everybody was so upset for Clifton, like wanting to find him something to
like
dry off.
An older lady at the end of the seat we were sitting in, she was tore up, and finally she like interrupts him talking. She's like, "Sir, do you have a towel for this young man?" And he goes, he never even turns around. He goes, "If I had a towel, it would probably be dirty."
I'm guessing he thought the horse was going to poop on it while it would be dirty. I don't know, because they were continuously pooping on the whole ride.
And so finally we get to the first stop, and they have some restrooms, thank God. And they had a family restroom. So I go in, and I'm taking off my shirt, taking off everything, and I'm, running it under this dryer
so he
for our
wouldn't
whole
freeze
stop.
to death. Because we had a while, and then not just a while, he had to
walk around the island,
finish an hour, walk around the island, walk to the ferry, and ride a ferry back to the place to get on the car to go to our hotel to change.
Yeah. So I was going to be in those wet clothes if we hadn't found that place. To thank goodness they had a good dryer, and
And then that was where Arch Rock was, and we wanted to see more of that and kind of walk to the top.
That was one of the things I was most excited about.
We didn't get to because he gave us I think he gave us 8 minutes, and when by the time we was walking over there to look, he was like, it's time to go, everybody. It's time to go. If you don't get over here, I'm going to leave you here. I'm not afraid to leave you.
He's like, "Come on, Kentucky."
Yeah, he was like, yeah, and I was like, that's it.
So, he was.
It was really hard.
But,
it was bad.
Now, and like I said, I'm patient.
Oh, he is. So, I'm telling you. He's got patience to joke.
Keep in mind, the next story I'm going to tell you happened the day before this incident. Yeah. So on our way to Michigan, we camped the first night in Indiana. And as we said in our last podcast, Whitney's an overpacker. She wanted camping to be very comfortable. And it was nice.
Pretty.
We had a nice camping setup. We had a lot of stuff. And so by the time I set up a tent, I've blowed up air mattress, I blowed up a couch, I've laid rugs, I put down foam flooring, I'm tired.
He was so tired. He was pouring the sweat.
And so.
And he was like, it's time to go to bed. Let's get ready for bed.
I said, no, we're going to build a fire.
Oh,
campfire.
We was going. Yeah, that was a big.
We got some firewood. We
drove out to get it.
Yeah, we got the firewood. We got back to our spot, and there was still some stuff sitting around. I said, I tell you what. I said, well, so we can leave early in the morning, and get to Mackinac early. I said, let's go ahead and get our clothes out, and
so we can be ready for.
So we can be ready in the morning. We'll put the suitcases in the vehicle, and everything won't be cluttered in here, and we can rest, and build a fire tonight.
Just relax.
She goes, all right. So I reach and grab the suitcase, and I start to unzip it, and Whitney says,
I didn't know what he was doing.
She says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm getting my clothes out." I was
like, no.
That. She said, "That's my."
Boy, that's my clothes.
I said, "That's my suit." She said, "That's my suitcase." I said, "No, it ain't." She said, "You packed in our Samsonite, the hard shell." I said, "That is right. I did, didn't I?" Because she packed in the one I usually pack in. Because the Samsonite has a little more room, but you took a backpack in addition to that.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh yeah." So I go to the van.
I hear him out there. Oh, are you kidding me? And I was like, what is going on out there?
So it's like 10 o'clock at night now.
Hostile.
And we're 10 hours from home.
I mean.
And I don't have a stitch of clothes with me.
Nothing.
I left my luggage at home. and
we really had to budget. We budgeted for this trip.
Yeah.
So.
And I do not do that.
And Clifton,
I usually pack our vehicle the night before.
Listen, buying clothes for Clifton is not an easy task. He's very, very picky about what he wears.
So, I'm like,
I mean, we can't even find them here. We usually have to go somewhere else to buy or order online for you.
So I'm like, we're going to have to go to Walmart. I was like, I'm going to at least have to get some ball shorts and some clean underwear, if nothing else.
We can get to a JCPenney or somewhere at the big and tall store.
Yeah. And so I'm like, well, let's go. So we head out, and by the time we get back, it's like midnight.
We've called all of our friends. We're laughing.
Yeah.
Everybody's FaceTiming, laughing at his expense, and it
so
was great.
Finally, I round up some ball shorts, stuff to drive in the next day, just to be comfortable and get enough clean underwear to get through. And so when you don't take your luggage at all, we made fun of Mom at the beginning for late, but she did better than me. I didn't even take a suitcase.
Yeah, he left his suitcase, and it was so we ended up going and getting about $300 worth of clothes to do him for a week.
Yep, and then
but was glad because they had some stuff at Walmart you actually liked.
Yeah,
and that town had nothing else.
Yeah, and also. We said we have too many suitcases. I had to buy another suitcase.
Yep, we went to.
And luckily, Bill's had one on clearance, and it's awesome. I like it. Really like TJ Maxx.
Yeah.
And it was lightweight, man. I love that thing.
Now he's in love with it.
Yeah,
it's like a backpack bag. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's Brit bags. It's
Yeah.
huge. It was nice. I really
But
liked
it was
It's super lightweight.
It was like, do we go home? What do we do? We were just like, but we were like, listen, because we had been looking forward to this trip, and Clifton especially
we bought tickets to the College World Series.
We were and Clifton was like, at first I thought he was kind of like, I should go home. What? We're too far away. I don't know what to do. And we just kind of was like, just make the best of it.
Yep.
Make the best of it. Let's not go home and let's just enjoy our trip. And I didn't know if he was going to enjoy it because he was really aggravated that night. But by the time we called our friends.
And then the next day, goofy, oops, I forgot it rained. I was literally ready at that point. Because I was still mad that I was
the day,
that.
not the next day. But
I beat myself up when I do something wrong. I
hate
making mistakes.
He was like, I never make mistakes like that. But that day I decided, I was like, listen, when we're here to have a good time, we planned this trip. We have a lot of things planned. Let's just go for it. Yep. You know what? We have some money in savings. We'll buy some. We ain't worried about it. Everything's good. It's nothing we have to worry about. Because he didn't want to spend it out of our normal budget.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not that big of a deal. And then finally it worked out. We called our friends. We all laughed about it. It ended up being a fun joke, and
I guess that's my advice is when things go wrong is to go with the flow.
And then we can get into the heartfelt stuff.
Okay.
I want you to tell a story about your all's vehicle breaking down at the Cades Cove and your mama and the tow truck driver. I mean, I wish you knew his grandmother that's passed away.
My dad worked in the mines, and we always had nice vehicles and stuff. But for some reason, growing up, my brother, my mom and dad, my mama would always go with us. Maybe sometimes one of her friends or her cousins. Actually, it was her Aunt Wanda. And then a cousin or somebody random would be with us. And instead of taking our vehicles, we would borrow one of my uncle's old vans. And the Chevy Astro or something 300 vans. The big plush seats with the old TV and VCR in it.
I still want one of those.
And that sounds nice for a kid, but TV never worked. And literally, we went on going to Pigeon Forge 3 times in a row. It broke down.
But you kept taking it.
Yeah, one time it broke down in Knoxville. Okay, and now listen to this. So one time we're in this van, we go to Knoxville to eat at Fazoli's on the way to Pigeon Forge. And my mom leaves her purse at Fazoli's. One of the workers stole it right before we could get back to it.
Was it a worker?
Yeah, because there was nobody else there.
Okay.
And so they were fairly certain it had to be a worker because they acted really strange. I remember when we went in. And so we're on our way. We'd already, Mom didn't have a purse. And that was the night my dad, he tried to cancel our reservations at Days Inn because, Mom had the money. And my dad swore off a Days Inn that night and still has not stayed at a Days Inn again because they wouldn't refund his money. I think they ended up eventually doing that. He's like, I've been staying at that Days Inn for, 10 years.
Once you get mad, that's it.
Yeah. When he boycotts somebody, it's permanent. And so, needless to say, we finally regroup a day or two.
Is that the time they found her purse in the lake? Or didn't they find her purse at the bottom of with pins in it or something?
It was maybe a bush or something, but everything was took out of it.
Okay.
I can't remember. It's something like that.
Yeah.
I
remember them saying something about that.
I don't know about that. But anyways.
I might have dreamed it.
That has a twist in it I'd like to hear about.
Dreamed it.
But anyway, so we regather and we head back. And so if you've ever been to Gatlinburg in the Smoky Mountains, there's a place called Cades Cove. It's part of the national park, and it's just a loop where it's a
It's
scenic.
miles long and it's busy.
It's a scenic
Back
loop.
in the
I'd
middle of
say
the mountains.
11 miles, and it takes sometimes if it's crowded like 3 hours to get around
And
it.
there's nothing there.
It's slow
No
track.
cell phone
One
service
lane,
or nothing.
One direction.
There's nothing.
And like I said, this has now been 20 years
yeah,
ago.
and there's no cell phone.
25 years ago.
You probably didn't have a phone, did you?
We may not have had a cell phone then.
I'd say you did.
May not have. I was not in high school. I was middle school, maybe even elementary school. So yeah, probably 25 years ago. And so we're literally halfway point of Cades Cove, and we stop, take some pictures. It's kind of the edge of dark. We're one of the last cars.
And that's when they close it.
Yeah, we're one of the last cars. Yeah, it's closed at dusk. Nobody else comes in. You finish the loop, and so on this 11-mile loop, we're 5 miles back in the mountains. We go
in the mountain.
Yeah.
It's back.
We
way
go
back
to
bears.
We go to start the van. Nothing. And I mean nothing. And
I just wish you knew
I don't know anything about cars,
too.
but I was like 11. Yeah, my mama was on a cane, and her aunt was with us. But they were similar age, and so we're in the back of the woods. And finally, I guess the guy comes through and makes sure there's no
with you.
Yeah, make sure there's no stragglers. Sees us sitting there. He comes up. He's like, "Yeah, what's going on?" And we're like, "Hey, buddy, we're sorry. We're broke down." And he's like, "All right, we'll call and get you a tow truck." And,
I love this.
And so
they had so many people with them.
Yeah, so gets us a tow truck, and back then, like there is no Uber. There's nothing. So we have to wait for this tow truck driver to get
from
there.
Knoxville.
Yeah, he comes from Knoxville.
To the middle of
probably an hour.
That's close to like North Carolina, like up at
Yeah, and there's probably another way in. He probably didn't go through
far,
54.
though. It's pretty far.
Like an hour.
In Gatlinburg.
Yeah. And so this guy's like, "Well, I'll take you back to Knoxville, that way you can get your paperwork done." Well, my mama, for some reason, rides up in the front with the tow truck driver. And we're on the back of this flatbed going down the interstate, like 6 people in this old van. And we're like passing these trucks. And the truck driver's looking, he's like, "Why are there people in this van on the back of this rollback? Doing 70 miles an hour down the interstate, we're waving."
I love that story. I could just see your mama up there with that man she doesn't know.
Yeah.
And then you and your mom and your dad and your brother and all of you guys just in this big van on the back of a flatbed tow truck.
The
best story.
And it probably took like 2 hours for the tow truck to get there, let alone drive us all the way to Knoxville. And if you know anything about Knoxville, the east side's always been kind of the rougher part of town. The west side's the nicer part of town. The east side's what's closer to Pigeon Forge. He drove us all the way to the west side of Knoxville
because he
didn't want my mama to be in a bad part of town. And luckily for us, thank God, our hotel has a Wendy's in the parking lot.
And
we walked through the drive-thru, and it was next door to a Chuck.
The drive-thru?
Yeah, and it was next door to a Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh wow, that was.
But while we're waiting, my mama,
she must have prayed that one down.
Yeah, my mama, her and her aunt have to get out and like pee in the dark, and they're like talking, they're giggling. You hear them, and they're like, "What if there's a bear?" And they're getting scared, So it was just a wild night. So yeah, we had a run like that forever. I think when my brother found out he was diabetic, we took like Mama on them's Cadillac for some. And again, why we took the Cadillac, I don't know. And power steering goes out that morning. It's like whining, trying to turn. So yeah, I don't know, it's just running bad luck. I don't know.
It is so funny.
You would think after like 2 times.
It is a funny story because I know.
Quit,
too bad we don't have a picture of your mama.
We broke down all the time.
I just love it. Bless her heart. God rest her soul.
Yeah, we lost her this past year, but yeah, she was something. And until she was, not healthy enough to go with us, every time we went, she was ready to go. Like she could out shop and do everything. She was great. So yeah, I guess closing with some advice is even when things are tough or they don't go according to plan, go with the flow best you can. I needed that advice this time a couple times, and
I gave it to him.
Yeah, it makes memories.
I do.
But go travel. My advice is go travel.
Well,
get outside your comfort zone.
People ask us all the time. They'll be like, "Well, why? How do you afford that?" Or you all go all the time, but we really budget like some things. I'll just say a few things we do. Like when we first got married, we didn't have hardly any money, and we didn't get to go on big trips. We would do like the beach with our family,
and weekends,
and Pigeon Forge like weekends. But we really did. I wasn't even out of college and I wasn't working, but we would do stuff like go and tour a timeshare to get free tickets, or we would stay in the cheapest hotel that we could find, and that's how we would get show tickets, or we would just go stay in a hotel and go play in an arcade and get pizza.
Yeah,
I mean, we always, because that is something important. My mom, growing up, like, she worked a state job, and honestly, it wasn't a big paying job, and we struggled. I mean, she took care of all of us, and we struggled, and I always held a job and stuff, but she always made, honestly, there were times that she probably had to charge it or borrow or whatever, but I hear people say, I wish I could go to Florida. I wish I could go to the beach. I wish, but if you really want to do it, you can make a way to do it.
Yeah, some people, here's what I would say. Maybe everybody can't go to Florida.
Or go more than once a year. Yeah. They can't.
But if you can go to a county in Kentucky you've not been to, or a county in your home state.
Like we did, it was like $26 to stay in a tent.
And, but even if it's just going somewhere different for the day.
Yeah, for the day. Anything.
Yeah, and,
go.
One thing we love, like, if you want to get outside of your state, like D.C. is a great place to go. Like you have to budget for like a hotel, but plan ahead, save, get a hotel. But you can stay a week and do free stuff. I mean, we love museums.
We Clifton pick free stuff a lot. You wouldn't believe it, but like when we go on this trip right here, a lot of the stuff we did didn't cost us anything.
Yeah, the NCAA museum we talked about in the last podcast, it was $7.
Yeah, the most expensive thing we did was the game.
College World Series. Yeah, and that was once in a lifetime.
We picked cheaper hotels. We camped.
Yeah, but even that was like,
and we
the second tickets were $35.
Clifton and I still do timeshare tours. We actually just went to Vegas because once a year they'll let you. I go to Bass Pro and they're over there saying, and a lot of people don't know that that's legit. But if they'll ask you, they'll be like, "Are you interested in timeshare or whatever?" It's what it is. You'll
$99.
It's like 3 nights.
You pay $99. They'll give you 3 nights, 4 stays.
I think it's $199 now, but they still give you a lot of it back.
Yeah, they give it all back.
Yeah, all of it to you in gift cards.
Yeah,
Bass
you get
Pro
it back
or
in
Visa.
Bass Pro or Visa gift cards, and you do
a 90-minute presentation.
Yeah,
We went to New Orleans that way.
But here's the thing:
you have to say no.
If you're easily persuaded, do not do that.
Yeah.
Timeshares are one of the biggest scams going. You have to be bold enough to say no, and you have to be bold enough to break their heart and listen to their sad story. That's a lie. Because it's all the same.
But it's still a pretty cool way to travel.
You can go online and look at like the typical timeshare presentation, and they're going to tell you exactly what they're going to say. It's a script. They're going to tell you some sad story. They're going to try to make a fake connection with you. It gets me sometimes.
I'm glad Clifton's level-headed.
And yeah, it's crap.
But honestly, that is some cheap ways that we will do things.
Take advantage of them.
And we save points on our like Southwest card we have. We save points that way to get flights. We went to New York pretty much free.
Yeah, free flights.
There are ways to travel, and if that's something you're interested in, reach out to us because we are glad to tell people. Get in the car and just drive down the road. We do that all the time. We go on these back roads and listen to podcasts and go look at like bears or
just
whatever.
Go see something you've never seen before.
Have fun. But if you want to travel, you can do it.
Yeah,
you can travel. Make plans
and we may do a podcast later on about kind of traveling on a budget and some tips and tricks. I think we may have done one of those before, but we may do an updated one. Also, and I don't recommend anybody get a credit card, or go in debt. But, if you're interested in getting one, I may put a link to like a code with some bonus points to Southwest.
Yeah, they do that. And
I can put that in the link of this video.
Something that you can do that helps you save those points.
Click on it, and I think it gives you, if you use our link, it's like 20,000 bonus points.
But like something you can do with the Southwest too is like if you have a card and you pay your bills on it, and then you just use that money to pay it off.
Sure you pay it off.
But you get those points toward free travel.
Yeah.
And you get quite a few for signing up. But that's not how we try to do it.
Yeah, with that link that's going to be in the bottom of this, I think it's 20,000.
I know people has thousands of flight points and miles.
Yeah. And once you fly a lot, you're going to get more miles for flying, and then it kind of eventually.
And if you say I'm afraid of flying, or I heard a lot of people that says I'm afraid of flying, I'm afraid of sailing. First of all, cruising is not really that scary at all because the lifeboats and stuff, all that's good, and we'll talk about that another time. Yeah. And then like even with flying, like I'm really an anxious person, like really bad. I struggle with panic attacks, struggle with anxiety. But sometimes just telling yourself that I'm going to do this and doing it, it turns out better than you think.
Yeah, just go because the world, there's beautiful stuff out there, but one of the things I've learned is everywhere we've been, talking to people and their
That's what I,
stories.
yeah, that's
is
what
nice.
I was telling him on this trip.
I
Like,
love
it's a
interacting with
smaller
people.
world than you think.
Yeah.
People are more alike than you think, nicer than you think. We get a lot of people that tell us, well,
we'll
the
go to
world
New
is
York.
so scary. Why are you going? I mean, that's a bad place.
Yeah, they're like,
you
I would
shouldn't
never
go
go to
there.
New York, but it's no
We
different
have
than
never
here.
had any bad experiences. You just have to know your
Yeah,
surroundings.
be smart, be aware. Don't stick your head in your phone and not pay attention to who's
Don't
around
go in
you.
areas that you don't know anything about.
Yeah.
Stay in the main areas where the tourists, the people are.
Yeah.
Don't get out on your
Or
own.
if you want to go somewhere you don't know, do like a tour, like a guided tour.
That's what we
be with
do.
somebody.
We do guided tours when we go into cities when we don't know people.
Yeah. And and there's always like promotions where you can do things a little cheaper.
Yeah.
And so just be smart about it. Don't get scammed. Don't start handing people money. Do your due diligence, but do as best you can.
It's fun.
Yep.
It's worth it.
All right, guys. So that's going to wrap up this. We're at 45 minutes, but yet it's still 5:07.
Still 5 o'clock somewhere.
So next
Here
time,
in the Caldwell house.
yeah, next time we're talking about bucket list stuff. So we'll kind of continue that theme we were just talking about, the places that we still want to go and our goals for traveling. So y'all have a good evening.
Get ready
See you
for my
later.
next trip.
Bye.
It's in a few weeks. Bye.
Bye.